kind of see a little bit where Judge Netburn is coming from, then in that case, she must rule to uphold Judge Netburn's order. It has to be clear to Judge Torres that Netburn screwed up. Now second, if true, and I think it is, that the SEC concedes Judge Netburn got the law correct, then the SEC is in a tough place because it can only argue she got the facts wrong. And that's a tough place to be for a lawyer, because keep in mind that nothing an attorney says are facts. Nothing I say in court is evidence, certainly. So really the SEC can't add anything new for Judge Torres. They can only kind of spin the facts that are in front of her.
News from the ongoing lawsuit between Ripple and the SEC. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of all that, billionaire Mark Cuban slapped with lawsuit for promoting Voyager products. The lawsuit alleged that Mark Cuban has specifically lured young and inexperienced investors into investing in Voyager's Ponzi scheme. And in other news, this one is from Blockworks. Decentralized or not, officials say Tornado Cash responsible for illicit activity. OFAC's decision suggests that all protocols are subject to the same compliance obligations. Also, barely 2 days after the Curve Finance DNS attack, Binance says it has recovered more than 80% of the stolen assets. More so, subsequent news propagates that inflation has benefited Binance immensely, as a recent report shows that Binance's user count is growing due to inflation. According to news from the crypto blogging website Crypto Potato, residents of Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico make up most of Binance's new clients due to the inflation levels in these countries. Moving on to the topic of the day, ex-SEC lawyer John Barry argues that XRP, like Ethereum and Bitcoin, isn't suited for the Howey test. Now, what is this news about the ongoing lawsuit between Ripple and the SEC that engenders the good, the bad, and the ugliness of it all is exactly what we're going to be looking at through the course of this video, so make sure you stick around till the end. For now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on bell notifications.
And that is why the reply brief is very factual and relatively laid back for Attorney Solomon, as he focuses on the facts that were presented to Judge Netburn about the speech and focusing on the SEC's constantly changing position. And as vanilla as most of the brief was, Solomon couldn't help but get a zinger in, and here it is in what will be your favorite part of the brief at the bottom of page 3. It's a little long, but it's good. Quote, "When it suited the SEC, the agency argued that the speech reflected only Hinman's personal views and disclaimed that he was speaking about SEC policy. Only after maintaining that position for nearly a year, and after Judge Netburn credited those representations and held that the communications about what the speech should say are not privileged, did the SEC change its story, arguing now that the speech was guidance to market participants." The SEC's real objection appears to be that Judge Netburn did not accept SEC's invitation to retreat from her findings when the SEC, apparently realizing belatedly the legal implications of its efforts to characterize the speech as a personal outside activity of Hinman, sought to put the toothpaste back in the tube and rely on self-contradictory lawyer argument to avoid the consequences of its litigation strategy. But that was not error. It was the faithful application of law to facts. The SEC's objection must be denied, close quote.
Now that's the good stuff. According to Attorney Hogan, this right here is the big problem that the SEC is going to run into. To some other interesting aspect of this lawsuit, we have this from XRP Productions. Breaking news, Gensler to hire 100,000 SEC agents in fear of falling behind IRS. Is this in preparation for the impending loss to Ripple in the lawsuit filed by the SEC against the fintech startup? We find out in a few. So the circuit judge in this lawsuit, Judge Annalisa Torres, granted the motion to approve the SEC's request for briefing schedule, on the grounds that both parties had submitted a joint proposal requesting a briefing schedule for motions to seal portions of the parties' filings in connection with their motion to exclude expert testimony, which is the so-called exclusion motions. These oppositions and replies to the exclusion motions are to be due on August 9th, 2022 and August 30th, 2022, respectively. On the other hand, Ripple responds to the SEC's July 16th, 2022 objection to submitting internal communications. The SEC can't show, as it should, that Judge Netburn obviously failed in discovering that there was any likelihood that the data sought might be applicable to the main topic of the action. As of right now, the SEC doesn't verge on clearing this high bar. The speech records are pertinent for somewhere around 3 reasons. First, the individual defendant's knowledge or recklessness, of which the speech conveyed Hinman's perspectives as to how the federal securities regulations would apply to Ether, a digital asset with stamped similarities to XRP. Second, we have the Howey elements. For similar reasons cited above, these documents are important for the utilization of the Howey test, which requires the court to consider which character also arranged digital assets like Ether were offered in trade. And then, last but not the least, is the fair notice defense, in which Ripple put forth the argument that the speech documents may likewise uncover the degree of the SEC's familiarity with common industry practices in exchanging digital assets, and may highlight the widespread uncertainty among market members regarding the regulatory status of digital assets. To decide if Ripple had a fair notification that the SEC would classify XRP as a security, therefore the court should look at whether an individual with conventional knowledge in defendants' respective positions had any chance to realize what is restricted and what is not. After which, the defendants collectively comprising of Ripple Labs as the company, its CEO Brad Garlinghouse and its executive chair Christian Larsen, files a declaration of Matthew Solomon's testimony, with several attached evidence, lettered Exhibit A to N, all of which are submitted to support the defendant's response to the SEC's objection to Judge Netburn's January 13th, April 11th, and July 12th orders, respectively. Moving on to the bad news.
Where I have to deliver bad news for you Ripple fanboys, that takes a long time, and here's how long. The objection to Judge Torres will be fully briefed on or about August 16. Judge Torres moves quickly on the simple rulings, but apparently takes a long time on reasoned opinions where she writes a lengthy order. So far in the Ripple case, we've seen her take at least a month and usually longer on those type of orders, so we are not even going to get her order probably until September at the earliest, and maybe even later in the year. Then, assuming Ripple wins, the SEC has to ask Judge Torres to certify the email issue to the Second Circuit, and that has to be briefed, which is a problem because even if Judge Torres realizes this issue is going to mess up her November 15 briefing schedule, she simply cannot push this email issue along fast enough to get all of the SEC's possible options concluded before summary judgment. In other words, if the SEC wants, which it does want, it can put off handing over these emails until past November 15, maybe way past November 15, which puts Ripple in a bit of a pickle. Does it say, screw it, and move forward into summary judgment without the emails? Or does it move to continue the summary judgment date until later in order to allow it to get the emails first and delay the case, stunting its growth, pushing back its IPO, and all those horrible things? Decisions, decisions. The big problem that the SEC is going to run into here. The evidence in the case is Hinman's deposition and sworn declaration in which he states that the speech was intended to reflect his own views. An attorney, now a year later, saying in a legal pleading that it actually reflected the division's opinion is meaningless. It's a nothing burger because you, the lawyer, are not a witness. And so the SEC is stuck with what Hinman said. Now, the SEC could have deposed another person at the SEC had them say that it was the division's opinion, and that would be admissible. But apparently they didn't do that because it's not here.
Now that is the ugly state of affairs in which the SEC currently finds itself. So what do you think about all of this? Do you think the SEC is pressuring down too hard? What do you reckon would be the possible outcome in this lawsuit? As I honestly do believe that the good, the bad, and the ugliness of it all has rubbed off on both parties. However, the SEC seems to be taking the greater brunt of it. After all, it filed the lawsuit in the first place. These are only predictions that I've come up with the little knowledge I have in the lawsuit. However, I'd love to hear what you folks think about all of this, so don't hesitate to leave us feedback in the comment section below.